Hi, Tam here. What's the difference between quarantine and isolation? You see, people are using the terms interchangeably. Even doctors are mixing up the two, But here's the difference, right? Isolation refers to sick patients. Quarantine refers to people who have been in contact with sick patients, but are not yet sick and might never get sick. Say you test positive for COVID-19. Not COVID-19 antibodies, but COVID-19, you actively have the virus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus. So we are isolating you from the community to protect the community so that you don't infect the community. So you've been isolated. That's isolation. Now, quarantine will be applied in a case where I am known to have been in contact with you, the sick patient. But I'm not sick myself. They test me, I'm negative. But because I've been in contact with you, I am going to be quarantined for 14 days. So if after 14 days, I still don't show any symptoms during my quarantine, then I will be released to go back to the community. That's the difference between isolation and quarantine. So the word quarantine comes from Italian, quaranta. Not from Latin, like many people believe, because, quaranta means 40. Quaranta. In Latin, 40 means quadrigenta. So, that's very different, So quarantine comes from the Veneto province. Venezia, So that's where the word was first used, and that's where quarantine measures were first applied in the 14th century. That's what we're talking about. The Middle Ages, medieval Europe, right? So in the 14th century, the Black Plague was around in Europe. The Black Death, not the Black Plague, the Black Death, the plague, aka the Black Death was around, So what happened is that the act of quarantining people was first applied to ships. So ships arriving in Italy, especially in the Veneto province, in Venezia, were not allowed to dock. And the crew was not allowed to come on board, to come on land. They had to be quarantined, quaranta. For 40 days, they had to remain on the ships. And the thinking was that, these people are coming now from wherever they come from. They might have the plague. We don't want them to infect us. So let's keep them on board at sea for 40 days. And the assumption there was that, after 40 days, all this crew, they would have infected themselves, and those with the plague would have died. And obviously their bodies would have been tossed out at sea, So after 40 days, the people remaining on the ships, we could safely say that, these people do not have the plague, They're safe. They probably developed antibodies and they survived, So the survivors would then be allowed to come on land after 40 days. Quaranta. So that's the difference between quarantine and isolation. Cheers.